That was 42, I think. And then there was that.
Hey, Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, it just turned 6:01. Is there some magic you need to do to kind of transfer host responsibilities?
You've got it. Your host came as co-host. We're recording to the cloud and we are broadcasting on YouTube.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody. I see we have a handful of folks that have logged in already. I might go ahead and give it about another 3 or 4 minutes before we get started. For those of you that have logged in, my name's Brian Wakeling. I'm the game chief, and we hope to kind of provide a little bit of information on the mountain lion season structure proposal that's before being out for public comment, and give everybody a chance to ask any questions they might have on that. And we'll get started with that in just a couple of minutes here. We'll give a few people a little bit more time to see if they want to come on here. So Cami, can you tell me what you're seeing right now? Does it have the presenter mode, or does it have the?
It's just It's just the slides. It's not in the presentation mode.
Okay, let me. How's that?
Much better.
All righty. Thank you. Well, okay, everybody, it's 6:05. We wanted to provide everybody with an opportunity to kind of ask the department some questions and give us a chance to kind of line out what the current season structure that's before the commission. The commission actually adopted this at their February 4th meeting. And so after that meeting, we've been taking public comment on that. And if you look at your screen right now, there's two ways that you can provide public comment. One is a website opportunity. You can get on there and it asks some specific questions. I'll talk about those in just a little bit. And the other one is just an email address, fwpwld@mt.gov. You can just email your comments in there and have the opportunity to share with us your thoughts regarding this structure or other things related to it. Before I get started, my name is Brian Wakeling. I'm the Chief of Game, and what we're trying to share with you is what the commission adopted as the primary proposal going forward regarding their mountain lion season structure. They will be taking action on this at their April 19th commission meeting. Any of the comments that we receive, we will be sharing with them. The meeting here tonight is not designed to solicit comment. We're not going to be collecting comments, but we will answer any of the questions to the best of our ability and try to help clear up any misconceptions there might be. And so what I've got is a real short presentation here that hopefully will kind of walk you through the overall proposal and hopefully help you understand it a little bit better. This was the proposal that was adopted by the commission on February 4th. I'd mentioned that. And what we're specifically asking for comments on, and this is what the commission asked us specifically to look at. With this proposal, there may be the opportunity to look at an individual hunting district, an individual lion management unit that may encompass multiple hunting districts. It could encompass groups of lion management units, or it may encompass an entire region. And so what we want your input on, that the commission has specifically asked for this, is at what scale should this be applied? And I'll go through the details of it a little bit more, but I kind of wanted you to be thinking about that as we go through there. And then the other thing that we're looking at is basically trying to partition harvest between a special limited license that has to be drawn and an over-the-counter license that you can have access to simply buying a tag over the counter. And this is by buying that over the counter will be addressed restricted by a quota. And so to the proportion of the harvest that should be allocated to that special limited license, and what the commission was specifically asking is somewhere between 10 to 30% of that opportunity, 10 to 30% of the harvest, what should be allocated to that special limited license. So some of the aspects of the proposal, if you're familiar with lion hunts, then the lion structure, the way it is right now, the first part, we have a fall season that occurs without dogs and an archery only season. That would remain unchanged. That would stay like it is currently. There are two aspects of the winter season, however. One would be a limited special license whereby the license is good for the duration of the season. So the special license season, you have to get drawn for it. It's limited in number, and that would run for the extent of the season, whether or not the quota is reached or not. The other aspect would be an unlimited special lion license, and that would also be designated to a specific area where the license would be valid, and it's valid for the duration of the season or until a quota is reached. All hunting areas would have a quota that limits the harvest of mountain lions by the unlimited special licenses. No area would be open entirely, and residents or non-residents may apply for either of those. Now, some of the specifics about the limited special license, as I mentioned, it would be issued through the draw, and so it would have an application date of July 31st. So you'd have to apply by the end of July. And in order to be eligible, you have to have a current conservation or base hunting license. They would be associated with the bonus point system. So if you applied and you didn't get drawn, you'd be able to accrue bonus points. Because it's a draw, non-residents would not be able to attain any more than 10% of the special limited licenses. And the proposal would have drawing results available after the 5th of August. Successful applicants who draw one of these tags would be notified by mail, and then you have until February 28th to purchase that. So if you're drawn and you don't purchase it, it would still be available to you until February 28th. However, that tag would be valid during the fall archery only or the season without dogs in any open district. So if you drew that tag and you wanted to hunt in any of those seasons, there wouldn't be any point in sitting on it. During the winter season, though, that mountain lion's license is valid only in the specified hunting area for which it's valid. So if you, say for instance, you had applied for hunting district 100, you drew that tag, that would only be valid for hunting district 100. Unlimited licenses, on the other hand, they're available at our typical vendors, license providers online. And again, those would be available until February 28th. available to both residents and non-residents. And during the fall archery only season or the fall season without dogs, these licenses would also be valid. So you could, if you bought one of those, they would be valid in any open hunting district. During the winter season, however, an unlimited special mountain lion license, if you purchased, again, going back to the example of 100, you bought a unlimited special mountain lion license valid in 100, that would be the only area in which that license is valid. So you wouldn't be able to go to any other unit or LMU or region and pursue. It would be limited to that particular area where that's valid. The unlimited special lion license, in this case, it's valid until the quota is reached or the season ends, whichever comes first. So 10 to 30% of the harvest, and this is what the commission is asking for input on, is should it be 10, should it be 30, should it be 15? Where should it be what should that allocation look like? That proportion of the harvest would be limited special mountain lion licenses. And so there may be more tags that are authorized, but the goal is to allocate that harvest in that fashion. One of the other aspects of the proposal, as part of the commission motion, is if you apply for a special limited license, you would not be eligible to purchase an unlimited special license. So you have to make a decision whether or not you would be applying for the special license that would allow you to hunt throughout the entire season, or whether or not you choose to pick up an unlimited special license that would only be limited by the quota. Both of those would be limited only to the area that's valid on the tag. So if you, again, going back to the example I picked first, hunting district 100, that would be the only unit or the only LMU that you'd be able to participate in. Unsuccessful residents, applicants may purchase a resident hound training license and pursue in a pursuit season. You can still chase mountain lions with hounds during the training season in any valid hunting district. Non-residents, however, must possess a limited or unlimited special mountain lion license before they can apply for the D4 non-resident hound licenses. Okay, that's my quick overview of that. We can certainly go back into more detail, more questions. Just trying to reiterate some of that. You're limited to the unit you apply for. You wouldn't be able to participate in, for instance, if you drew a limited license and you wanted to hunt afterwards in another district that had an unlimited, you would not be able to do that. You have the limited tags. And so with that, Cammie, I'm going to rely on her to kind of help us. We've got some regional personnel on the line as well. And so if there's questions you'd like to have us elaborate on, we can certainly do so. But if you want to, if you happen to be on a phone, and I don't know if anybody is on a phone, I think it's I get this backward, Cammie. *6 to raise your hand, and *9 to unmute.
The other way. So if you
Okay.
need to raise your hand, press *9, and then when I call on you, *6 to unmute.
Thanks, Cammie. So it looks like Nick's got his hand up.
Yep.
Go ahead, Nick.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
So how would this whole thing work for somebody that's got a general tag, or are there going to be general tags available anymore?
So the general tag, it's a good question. The general tag is something that would be valid during the fall season, but there would not be a general tag for the winter season. So if you wanted to participate, you'd have to make a decision on where you would like to, whether or not you'd like to apply for a special limited license, or if you'd rather just go ahead and purchase one of the unlimited ones. But they would all, at that point, limit you to a particular hunting area.
So what's the reason for limiting people to a specific hunting area?
So this was a proposal that the commission proposed. And so I'm not entirely certain of the exact rationale why the commission considered this. However, it is similar in some instances to some of our proposals that we had, we considered, like, for instance, if you draw a elk permit in many areas, most areas of the state, if you draw an elk permit, it limits you to the area where you were drawn. And we proposed that originally because we had heard an awful lot from the public that, someone would draw a permit that close to where somebody lived, and they would hunt it perhaps one weekend, and then they'd run off and go to and hunt near their house for the rest of the time. Whereas someone that lived near that permit area might not be able to draw that permit and they were excluded from hunting in their neighborhood because of that. We hear sometimes people have complained about hunters basically chasing quotas around the state. Quota may close in one area, and then they'll put an awful lot of pressure in another area. So things of that nature. But like I say, I don't know the rationale why the commission chose to do that, but those are some of the concerns and considerations that we've heard. Other questions? There seems to be a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I'll try to answer those. One is, what are we trying to accomplish by changing from current season structure? Again, the commission has chosen to advance this proposal, and I'm not entirely certain what they see with the merits of this one over some of the existing ones, but I did touch briefly on some of the potential benefits that we might see. And then there was Mark also asked this next question: will non-residents be limited to 10% of the harvest if they choose a Perch unlimited license? Because the license is unlimited, we would not be able to restrict non-residents at that point. They would be restricted to 10% of the draw, but because it's unlimited, there is no 10%. Other questions? I think Nick's raised his hand again.
Yeah, I got another question. So say I get whichever tag is specific area, right? And I'm able to hunt that area. Would I be able to go with somebody, or vice versa, somebody go with me that has a tag for somewhere else, even if they didn't want to shoot anything or I didn't want to shoot anything? Would they be able to go with me in that area, or would I be able to go with them in a different area or district?
I see no reason why you would not be allowed to accompany. It wouldn't exclude you from being able to accompany somebody else who was lawfully pursuing mountain lions within that district. It's just one of those things that I what I always tell everybody is, I'm not an enforcement officer. I can't tell you how they would perceive a lot of things, but if you happen to have a paper tag and you aren't hunting in that area, you might want to just leave your paper tag in the truck. There's no reason to make it look more complex or more suspicious than it needs to be. But even if you had that on your person, and you're not, you don't have a firearm in your hand, you're not behaving in any manner as though you're the one that's pursuing the animal. There's nothing unlawful. There's a lot of people that have an elk permit in their pocket and go into another unit where an elk hunt is ongoing. And so long as you don't do anything unlawful, there's nothing that would preclude you from doing so.
The reason I asked that is because if you said I would have to stay in that unit, right? But like a general land license, right? You can go to any unit and just run dogs and train dogs, treat cats and such. I guess that's what I'm asking, more along the lines of, like, will I still be able to go to other units and do that even if I don't want to kill one?
If you have a resident hound training license, then you can lawfully pursue within those other units as well.
Okay, that was the main question.
Okay. And Mark, I see you had the question, can a houndsman still chase in multiple districts? And as long as you have the resident hound training license, then as long as that district is open, then you're fine.
Yeah. Right, which you have to have it anyways, from what it sounds like, which is only $5.
Yeah, what that allows you to do is to pursue as a chase within another district. It would not allow you to hunt within those other districts under your tag.
Right.
So Mark has put another question in here. It says, is this a done deal and we are just commenting on the components of this proposal, or are the previous proposals presented prior to February 4th still on the table? What I can say is that the commission's proposal, what they adopted was this proposal, and they asked that it be that we take public comment on that. My sense is that, and it's really difficult to say what individual commissioners may be thinking, but what the commission asked is that we advance this proposal. And so this was the one that they wanted some additional comment on. I don't know what the commission may choose to do based on public comment, but this was the one they were advancing and wanted to take further comment on at this point in time. It's not a done deal until the commission acts on it in April. So Rachel has asked, what is this attempting to accomplish? I have some serious ethical concerns about the goal of this. It seems to be overcomplicating our lion season, which no one was asking for changes for. It seems to have no conservation or wildlife management goals other than perhaps a self-serving benefit to the mountain lion outfitter who proposed it and is pushing it through. Is there a conservation or wildlife benefit to any of this? I can't really speak to the intent. That's something that what I heard the commission talk about was trying to find ways that are kind of more uniform across the state, things that will provide kind of a compromise on the various options that they had heard before. But as I told the commission when we were presenting the mountain lion structure and they were discussing these, I don't foresee a lack of ability to manage to a biological objective, regardless of what objective they choose. We'll be able to manage the mountain lion harvest by adjusting quotas and adjusting tags into the future. This is the commission's realm. This is a social adjustment that they may choose to make, and that's why they're asking for your comment. So Mark asked, is there an opportunity to restrict the non-resident to 10% of the harvest with this proposal moving forward? With when we offer unlimited numbers and manage it by the quota, there isn't a real good way to manage to keep the non-residents to 10%. Keep in mind that we have now got the non-resident hound license, and my understanding is that some of the challenges that we've been faced with in the past dealt primarily with the number of non-resident hound handlers that would come in, and so at this point, there's a limit. The non-residents can obtain no more than 40 non-resident D4 hound licenses that they can use during this hunt. The commission is statutory; it's limited to 80. The commission has said no more than 40 would go to a lionless season, and in addition, they said no more than 2 per administrative unit that we're managing things on. So we're kind of managing it that way. We haven't seen a challenge with non-residents currently, and the special limited license tags would be limited to 10% for non-residents. Marks asks, referring to outfitters and non-residents, simply check quota daily as all responsible houndsmen do. And once non-resident harvest reach 10%, season is over for the non-resident. We don't have a mechanism in place to implement that particular approach at this point in time. I think we would probably need to kind of see how this approach works. It's certainly something that we might need to look into the future. But currently, I don't think we have a mechanism by which to use this.
Brian, in the chat, Charles asked, how many limited tags are proposed per region and per LMU?
Say how many are being proposed by LMU?
Yep, and by region.
Okay. At this point, we don't have a solid recommendation on a final recommendation, let me say, on what the quota might look like. And so what we're probably going to try to do is largely retain the harvest levels that we've seen in prior years. So if a particular LMU has been seeing, just for rough an example, if we've been harvesting about 10 animals in that LMU over the previous years, and our objective is to maintain that population at the same level, we'll probably try to do the same thing. And so what we may do in a situation like that is, if it's 10%, you may see one special limited license. If you were to go to 30%, you would see two, three, maybe four, and then you'd be looking at 7. I see Neil has an opportunity to, or has offered some information here. I'm going to let Neil Anderson, our wildlife manager up in Region 1, respond first.
Sure. So thanks, Brian. So it's a good question. So the commission has asked for the public to kind of weigh in here, and that's why they put up a quota. So they're asking the public to give us an idea what you would like to see, or give them an idea what you'd like to see. 10% of the quota going to these limited licenses, all the way up to 30%. So right now, there's no decisions have been made. So we'll also incorporate, public comments. So if the public would like to see a lot more of these limited licenses, then it'll go towards that 30% of the total. If they'd like to see less, it'd go towards the 10%. And then, as Brian mentioned, we'll also maybe looking at some of the harvest rates and different things in terms of quota and where we would be with that. But hopefully that answers the question.
Nick's got his hand up again.
Hey, I just got another thought. So what's stopping somebody from going out and getting, or like, I know that it's a draw, but let's just say somebody wanted to hunt an area like 201 or something. What's stopping somebody from having them and their family and their friends all put in for that area to exclude everybody else from basically going in there and hunting it and not filling any of the quota the whole season?
There is nothing that would strictly prohibit that type of behavior from occurring. There are deer hunts with small numbers of permits that could currently have that happen. But what we will look at over the long term is if we see that kind of thing, that kind of activity occurring, that's going to influence, what we look at as far as the harvest success or the management success from a particular hunt. And so we would probably adjust those quotas and number of license tags into the future. Neil, did you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. So under this current scenario, the way it's listed, there would be unlimited licenses that will operate on the quota system. So there's no way any one person or one family could dominate the licenses because they're unlimited. The only thing that would change is if they put in for the limited licenses, they could potentially draw all those licenses. But I know in Region 1 where we've had limited licenses before, we've not seen that happen. So there's two options, two ways to harvest lions under this scenario, right? You buy an unlimited license, which is subject to a quota. And when that quota closes, the season closes for all those unlimited license holders. Or you can put in for a limited license, which allows you to hunt all season long. But if it's a draw, and if you don't draw it, then you're kind of out of hunting lions for that year.
That doesn't like that. That's kind of how it was before, in a way, at least until February 1st in some areas. Is that correct? But now it's completely off the table for that whole season.
Well, it's a little different in that in Region 2, and I think there's some folks from Region 2 on here who can answer this probably better than I can, but the limited license lasted until the end of January, and then it became a quota. Under this system, the unlimited licenses will be issued, and the quota runs until it fills from the start of the season. And so that might close early or it may close late. But the unlimited or the limited licenses that are under draw, you're not restricted. You can hunt the whole season long until you harvest a lion. So it is a little bit different.
Rochelle has another comment. This feels like calling it public comments misnomer. The public should have the opportunity to comment. We don't agree with the proposal altogether. Why is this not an option? Don't know whether there's been a massive complaint about our lion season yet. This proposal opens the opportunity for those who say profit from hunts to continue hunting past a biological quota. Why is it we can publicly oppose the proposal altogether? So you can, there still are opportunities to share your comment. So one of the comments you can send is to the FWP WLD at montana.gov. Go ahead and send your comments there. We'll share those with the commission. But you've also got the opportunity to, the commission's been doing these meetings kind of in a hybrid fashion. And so it's actually extended the amount of comment that the commission can provide or can receive. You don't have to travel to the meeting in person in order to be there. It's actually a much more user-friendly way, but you usually have to register the day before the meeting in order to be able to speak. Because of the volume, there's also a limited amount of time that the commission routinely provides. But you can send your email comments. There's no limit there. And one thing I might advise, the commission, they're volunteers, and while many of them have, a lot of people think a lot of time, gosh, it sure would be nice if nobody had a personal link to something here. One other thing to think about is, if it wasn't personal for the commissioners, they might be more detached. They may not be as familiar with what we are working with, and so it's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword. And when you have the opportunity to speak, the thing that I always recommend is, you might consider trying to do so in a respectful fashion, because if you're angry, it's understandable, but sometimes a polite disagreement carries more weight than just expressing frustration. I know it can be difficult, and I'm not being critical of anybody or the emotion they might feel with this. So just a couple of thoughts. I see there's a couple of different places where comments come in, and I'm trying to keep track here. I see one comment on the chat. It says the successful harvest of a lion by a limited license holder. If the quota isn't filled, does the harvest come out of the quota? The proposal, as I understand it, is they would be separate. And so you have a quota and you have a special limited license. They would be separate. And so as we formulate our recommendations, we would consider them separately. We understand there's going to be some harvest by a limited license holder, and so we'll probably adjust a quota appropriately. I think there was one other comment here. Justin Duffy, we managed our lion populations in regions 3 through 7 very effectively, biologically and socio-acceptable standpoint for decades. Region 1 and 2 have some definitions that need to be fixed, but to replace the great system we have, other systems try to fix the issues by implementing an unproven system is foolish. Also, as now worded, there will be many lion management units that simply don't get hunted due to hunters being required to commit to one unit. And I and many other houndsmen hunt all over the state, which contributes quotas being filled that are not being appealing enough to make your one chosen lion unit. Those are all good comments. I would, put that information into an email and so that we can share that with the commission. It's difficult that we're not equipped to be collecting comment here this evening. Our intent was just to answer questions. So if you'd like to share that with the commission, please put that into an email and send it along. See a raised hand by Rod.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, great. I've had great difficulties. I've listened to you. Look, I just need clarification on a couple items, please. It's Rod Bullis from Helena Hunters and Anglers. Under the unlimited special license over the counter for non-residents, there's no limit in the lion management unit. Let's just say the West Fork of the Bitterroot. There would be no limit for non-residents applying for that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And they would be valid until the quota is reached. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If they buy a general license, which is good statewide for the archery and general hunting season without dogs, they cannot apply for a limited or a limited special license or an unlimited. Is that correct?
Say that one again. For some reason, I kind of cut out on me, Ron.
It might be me, Brian.
Okay.
If a non-resident purchases a general lion license, they can't go and then purchase a special license or an unlimited special license.
I don't believe the proposal speaks to that directly. However, if a non-resident were to purchase an unlimited license, they could use that in the fall season.
Okay.
And they could also hunt during the winter season.
Okay.
But if they just wanted to hunt in the fall season, then they could pick up a general season.
Okay. That answers that. So if you have an unlimited special license lion management unit, what effect would that have on potential quota overrun?
So, any of our seasons that we currently have that are governed by a quota have the potential for a quota overrun. It's a fact of kind of what we deal with. However, what we have the ability to do is adjust quotas to respond to that in a subsequent year. So in other words, we might overrun an objective or a quota a little bit one year, but we'll have the ability to adjust that down in a subsequent year. Biologically, we'd still be able to address that.
So a resident hunter, both of these, the limited special license and the unlimited, if you have one or the other of those and you're a resident, you're limited. Those are the only line management units you could make a harvest in. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Brian, at the February commission meeting, I went to the podium immediately after this option 3 was given and asked if options 1 and 2 from the December meeting and 3, if these were the 3 options. And the answer was yes. And the record would reflect that. So my question is, I understand that these items that you want us to specifically address, I understand that. So I'm just bringing the point is, if a person wanted to support options 1, 2, or 3, is this the place to do it?
Rod, if you wanted to voice support for one of the other options that had been previously presented to the commission, you could certainly send that to the FWP Wild email address. You could certainly speak to it at the commission. You're very familiar with that process. You've done it a number of times. You could provide that in either of those forums.
Okay, thank you. You're coming in loud and clear. I'm going to check out now.
All right, Rod, have a good one.
Thank you. I'll keep listening.
Rochelle, again, I don't mean to come off as crass. I appreciate everything you are all trying to do here. Thank you for answering our question, dealing with the heightened emotions that we're all trying to navigate this year. Tend to attend all the meetings in person, and Helen certainly won't miss this one. Again, appreciate the opportunity to have a few questions explained. Thank you for all the work you're doing. Thanks, Rochelle. And I was not taking any personal affront or anything by your comments. Appreciate you taking the time to ask the questions, and thanks for being here. And I can't remember the first time I heard it, but somebody made the observation that decisions are made by those that show up, and so you certainly we don't always get the commission to. None of us get the commission to do exactly what we want to do 100% of the time. But if you're not there to share your opinion, that's certainly they don't have any other way of knowing it. I think there's Scott put something in the chat. So the question is, can you have a training license and a tag? Both. Many of us do not necessarily want to fill a tag, but we want to chase a number of different districts and have a tag available, at least for some districts. So yes, you can have a resident hound training license and a tag. Overshooting the quota is supposed to be in place based upon science. Complete oxymoron, which is exactly what this will do. One of the things that's important to keep in mind is, a lot of times we try to manage as precisely as we can, but a lot of what we do, and I'm not trying to make light of the biology and the effort that goes into it, but there's a lot of the story about measuring with a micrometer, marking with a grease pencil, and cutting with a chainsaw when it comes to wildlife management. Rarely do we screw things up so bad we can't fix it next year. Commission and the director were wanting to simplify the deer, elk, etc. This is completely counter to that supposed goal. I can't remember exactly what the page length on the deer, elk, antelope regs were last year, but the word I got is we exceeded it by 4 pages this year. I think we all recognize that what we started out hoping might simplify things has done anything but. It's one of the other observations that's been made is, it's probably with complexity comes opportunity. And so we're looking for ways to make things simpler. I'm not saying that we couldn't have done a better job at the whole process overall, but in the public comment area, we're forced to choose a percentage. This will be used against us as an example. I'm against the whole thing. We should be able to clearly state we are opposed to this. Agreed. That's why the email address is up here, fwpwld@mt.gov. All of your comments will be shared with the commission, so please feel free to send us your thoughts and ideas there. Also, again, come back to the ability to be there or comment. If you want to comment online, that's usually available about a day and a half ahead of time with a cutoff. So be aware of that. Bob asked the question, will the Region 2 Special Management Area continue to exist? The Missoula Special Management Unit or Management Area we still intend to have that in place, at least at this point, but it's going to have to fall under the same structure as the rest of the state. Again, if you've got thoughts about how those work and how they could work better, please send us your comments. This is your opportunity to do that. And so don't hesitate to share your thoughts on any of those. And Scott, thank you. Appreciate the thanks. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Comments are useful, except that we can't capture them here. So, Rod, you raised your hand, and I see another question in the dialogue as well. So go ahead, Rod. Can't hear you, Rod.
This is under, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, my bad. This is under the limited special license topic. If a person applies and draws for one, and the quota is reached in that lion management unit by unlimited special licenses, how before the end of the season. So what lion would be legal? Would it be, male or female? If the quota's reached and you can still hunt for the whole season and you can still kill with the special license, is that correct? And
Yes,
how?
that would be correct. And if you've got ideas on, at this point, depending upon how many licenses they would have, they probably, we anticipate that there'll probably be a skewed ratio of males harvested by these special limited license holders, just based on the perception that we hear. And it's something we'll have to evaluate with time. But we'll, any scenario is still possible. Send in your thoughts and ideas, and we'll be using that to help us formulate our final recommendation. The comments, I should emphasize again, it's open till March 18th.
So I hope so the 10 to 30% for the special license, would that be 10 to 30% of the quota for that lion management unit?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Rod, what we're thinking right now is that if we're trying to manage for 10 to 30%, and let's just say, let's go with 20%. And this, again, just using round numbers, let's say we have a unit where our desired harvest is 20 animals, or let me try that again, 10 animals. If it gets to 20, I got to take my shoes off to do math. So let's stay with 10. And so what we'd want to do is allocate 2 animals to the special license,
Okay.
and 8 to the unrestricted where it's over the counter. And so what we would probably think about, we can look at some of our historical information, and we can say, okay, we would expect that if we were to allocate 2 animals, it might take 3 tags to get to 2 animals, and likelihood is they'd hold out for males. And so then we'd have a quota of 8 that we look at how we would like to have the harvest occur. And so we would kind of, we're using some hypothetical examples here, but we kind of sort through it in that fashion.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. See, we've got another, Rochelle again. Is there a way to reinstitute the public comment portion on the comment opportunities page? Gives us no ability to comment to oppositions unless we happen to have this email address. Feels an unfortunate way to limit public opposition. I hear what you're saying. There is, rather than, and what I've seen some people do, the first one is just a drop down. The first question is simply a drop down, and it asks you 10 to 30% and makes you pick one there. The other one's pretty open-ended. And so you can go ahead and say whatever you like in that aspect. And there have been a number of people already using it in that way. It's not perfect, but people that are used to commenting to the agency are pretty comfortable sending us emails. Another, I'll just leave it at that. You can certainly send us either way. Thank you, Rochelle. Are there any other questions? This is the first of two, so we're going to do this because it's been so much fun tonight. We're going to do it again tomorrow night. And so, that's another thing. If you know somebody else that wants to make a comment or has a question, really, but they can hear the same information tomorrow night, we'll go through and we'll give the same information about how they can comment. Again, our comment window is open through the 18th. We'll use all that information to help us in our formulation of our final recommendations. And we'll also share all of that with the commission. So they get to, and we're trying to make an effort to get this information to them earlier so they have more time to consider and think about this as well. If you're on the phone and you want to raise your hand, which one is it, Cammie?
Star 9 to raise your hand.
Star 9 to raise your hand. Well, if there aren't any further questions, we can go ahead and just sign off for this evening. No one will be back on tomorrow night. Or if Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe you answered the question, but Charles McDougall had the question: the successful harvest of a lion by a limited license holder. If the quota isn't filled, does that harvest come out of the quota? And, I just didn't hear you answer that one. Maybe you did already.
Yeah, I may not have answered that, but what the special license is supposed to be, the way the proposal's been drafted would be separate from the quota, and so it would not apply to the quota. If the quota was met, special license would still be valid through the end of the season, and if the harvest under the special license wouldn't apply to the quota. Thanks for pointing that out, Matt. See, another question just came up. Bob, again, since previously the Missoula Special Management Area was an option for anyone with an over-the-counter tag, how would this break down for the new limited, unlimited structure work? The way this proposal has been drafted, it would basically just be another one of those areas that you would have to select to apply for, or you would have to select it to buy an unlimited license for. Might make sense to group that with another unit. The problem with thinking about that is if we want a high objective there, a neighboring unit we may not want a high objective, and so trying to limit where we have people participate, trying to focus harvest is one of the challenges and one of the things we'll have to learn if we go forward with this.
Yeah, Brian, just a question. Is there any way for anybody else, or like anybody in general, I guess, to monitor the quota numbers for the ones that won't be taken out of the quota numbers that you see online?
That's a good question, Nick. I'm not sure what we currently provide something like that, but it's certainly not out of the realm. Neil, do you have a
Yeah.
better answer than what I'm coming up with?
Yeah, currently right now, the only way we post those are in quota because you have to call in and it comes off the quota. So we would have to change the website. What we've done up in Region 1 where we don't have quotas, if anybody wants that information, we've been willing to tell them what the harvest is based off of our harvest records. But it's something we would have to look into on the website to see if we could accomplish that as well. But right now, the website is just set up to monitor quotas.
Thanks, Neil. Go ahead, Rod.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding at the April commission meeting, the season structure will be selected and also the tentative quotas would be established.
So that, Rod, that's the model that we have been using for quite some time. But there's a couple of variables that may alter that this time. So the commission, I mean, ultimately we have to have, in order for the seasons to be published and everything to be online and ready to go, we have to have final in June. And if the commission, and I'm not saying, that I'm not predicting or trying to cause any undue angst, but should the commission want to chew on their decision a little bit longer, they could decide to, possibly postpone making a final decision on the season structure until June. We still would have time enough to make that happen. But traditionally, they finalized it, and they have every intent, in my understanding, to finalize things in April for the season structure.
Right.
Routinely, we have presented quotas as a tentative at this point, but depending upon how much uncertainty we may have at this point in time, if we don't have a proposal ready at the commission meeting in April, it's certainly something that we will share shortly after, and that would still provide the public with ample opportunity to provide additional comment on our quota structure, or what the quotas would look like following that. There would be something that they would have and be able to look at and provide comment to the commission prior to June.
Okay, that helps out. Over the last 15 years or so, the houndsmen and the staff in the regions have worked up quotas for the tentatives. I'm just wondering, how the discussion for establishing quotas would take place for the houndsmen.
I know that we have had a couple of meetings already with some of the houndsmen and have discussed some of this. What I'm encouraging everybody to focus on right now is our desired harvest. And so when you're thinking about a desired harvest, and depending on with the various proposals that have been before us, the quotas might look different under one proposal than what it might look in another proposal. But the harvest is still trying to look pretty identical. So what our conversations thus far have tried to focus on is the desired harvest. And that's what we would focus with any quota or license, depending upon the final decision by the commission.
All right, thank you.
You bet. You know, normally in a public meeting, I sit around at this point and say, you know, we can sit here and stare at one another as long as you want. Right now, I can't stare at you because I can't see your face. There's Neil. You can stare at him.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, I just wonder if you want to just maybe reiterate to folks too that any lions that are harvested during the archery, the fall season, archery and general rifle season for deer and elk would come out of the, those would be deducted from the quota.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I haven't been focusing much on our standard fall season, but yes. Nick.
Hey, so question. So if we have a hound training license, I was under the impression that we can still go in any of the regions and still go chase lions. If we have somebody that we know that has a unlimited or a limited lion license in a specific region and doesn't have hounds, are we able to go over there and allow that person to harvest a hound or harvest a lion with while we're using our hounds?
That's a good question.
The reason I ask this is because like there's a lot of private property owners and stuff that have lion issues that are next to Forest Service or next to the, you know, in the mountains, whatever, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good question. So you would certainly be able to use your hound training license to pursue them. What I don't know is I don't know whether or not it's kind of the whole guiding question, and I don't have a quick answer for you right now. But certainly I can look into that and try and get you an answer on that one. Unless somebody on the Neil, I don't know if you know the answer to that
Yeah,
one.
I guess I was trying to understand. So you're asking if, as a houndsman, if you could take a friend out who had a license, basically?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to confirm whether you actually had to, you probably would still have to have a chase license to do so, but I don't think there's anything stopping you, because right now people are doing that, right? I mean, there are a lot of folks who take friends out to go lion hunting and using their dogs. And I don't think there's anything in the proposal anyway that limited that.
Yeah, Neil, I would agree with what you're saying there. I think the bottom line is the restriction is on the harvest of the lion in the district by the person that holds the license.
Thanks, Matt. There was another point wanted to clarify. If you bought a general license during the archery and general rifle season, would that be valid in any LMU that hasn't hit 20% of quota? It would still be valid for the fall season, but it would not, you could not use that once the winter season began. And so that's kind of the important distinction there. And you wouldn't have to have a special limited license in order to do that. You could just pursue during the fall. Bob has a question specifically for Neil. How significant have the early fall and archery and rifle season had on the quotas under our current structure?
I guess I couldn't answer that in terms of some of the other regions, but I know in Region 1, it's been pretty minor. Typically, we see no lions harvested, but occasionally we will have a couple. And every once in a while, we'll reach the 20%, but not very often. So it's a pretty minor proportion of the harvest that occurs during the archery and general fall season.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. Anything further? There is a comment in chat here. Hang on half a second. Says, being new to Montana, it seems that opportunity for hound hunters is overly restricted. Why can't the lion season be statewide with individual unit quotas? Once quota is filled, it turns to chase only season. I find it absurd that hunters are required to differentiate between sex of the cat harvestable. An honest hound hunter can't commit to complete accuracy in sexing a live lion when managing wildlife. Males don't matter. So it makes sense to have a female only quota after males have shorter lifespans than females due to competition for home ranges. There's a lot of things that we've been working on here in Montana, trying to be far more detailed and kind of precise in our management. The approach that with the sex-specific licenses have been in place in Region 1 for quite a while, have been very successful, has helped us manage a lot of the quota overruns that we used to have. And Chase, I'm not sure where you're from, but I know some of the states that I've been in before, in Arizona and Nevada, don't the cats in some of those areas aren't nearly as vulnerable as they are once it starts snowing here in Montana. But biologically, this has been a system that's been working for us. It's evolved for quite some time now. I'm not sure what else to say. I'm not sure we can quite answer all those questions. Neil, I don't know if you want to weigh in.
Yeah, I guess I'll weigh in on the differentiation between the males and females. And so in region 1 and some other places in the state where we've had sex specific quotas, and when those quotas fill, you can no longer harvest that sex of a lion. We've not seen a whole lot of illegally harvested animals that are the wrong sex. So I think by and large, a lot of the houndsmen have been fairly successful at differentiating between the male and female. And certainly there are some lions that are more difficult to tell than others, but the reality is, it's like anything you're hunting. If you can't tell what it is, you're probably better off not to shoot. And so live to fight another day, and they just treat a different lion where they might be able to tell what it is. But so we haven't had a whole lot of misidentification in terms of folks who had to shoot a certain sex of an animal with lions. They've been fairly successful.
Matt, I don't know if you had something to add.
Yeah, Brian, I was just going to add for Chase, for some of the putting a male specific quota on lions, for example, you can, if you lowered that quota and make it male specific, you could potentially, and the goal is to increase your age of harvested males, for example. And then also, if you're interested in population reduction with a male subquota and a female quota in place, you could increase your female quota to reduce your overall lion population. So those are some of the tools, those quota tools and sex dependent harvest are some tools that you can use to, change those two variables.
Thanks, Matt. Any more? Okay. Chase?
Yeah, this is Chase again. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It might be easier to talk than type. So, yeah, I've lived in a number of different states, hunted lions, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Idaho. And I guess, does Montana have a genetics data collection system? I assume a check-in procedure. That would lend itself to kind of population dynamics and movements for, preventing some of the migration corridor cutoffs and, the ease of lion harvest in certain areas that get more snowfall and so on. I guess if the state is interested in reducing lion numbers, I guess what is the basis behind the limited entry tag system?
Yeah. So a couple of things. We have been working with the genetic markers and using the spatially explicit capture recapture work. And it started up in our region. We started some initial work in region 2 down in the southwest part of the state, kind of tooled in the work, and we've expanded that up in our up in the northwestern ecoregion. And we've been working on that along with our integrated population models and some of the citizens committees to help us identify what our objectives are. And so we're not trying to reduce lion populations statewide. In fact, we just recently completed some of the work and is still trying to finalize the report coming out of the ecoregion in the Northwest. But we are looking at a reduction there between 10 and 15%, but that's not evenly distributed either. Looking at focal areas where we might have some places where some ungulates may be suffering unduly from mountain lion predation. And so this is all kind of integrated with some of the ongoing research we have with our ungulate populations, trying to look at how those populations are doing. It's a process we're planning to use to kind of move across the state, and we'll be moving to some additional areas, heading down into the south next, then to the central portion of the state, and then circling back and coming back to the Northwest and seeing whether or not we're actually capable of monitoring, kind of improving our monitoring approaches and techniques. So we've got a pretty sophisticated management process in place, and we're continuing to learn.
Okay, thank you for that.
You bet.
I've come from Idaho, and I've seen different management styles and different units around the state. And most recently in the southeast part of the state, there was a subset of resident hunters that were upset about the harvest by an outfitter. And so there was kind of a local pact made to close down the season, as quickly as possible by filling the quota. And they were successful in doing that 3 years in a row, closing the quota within 2 days. And so I guess I hate to see Montana chopping up seasons quite in the same way, where, there's no opportunity in the Northwest. So everybody flocks to an open unit in the central part of the state or Southwestern, closes down a unit, and then everybody flocks to the next area to close down the next unit. It seems like by chopping it up, you're spreading out the hunting pressure unevenly throughout the state, so you're kind of disadvantaging folks that may not want to travel as far, folks that would like to hunt closer to home, that sort of thing. So I guess it just seems more complicated than it really needs to be. I know, some of the tracking data in Nevada, I mean, these cats in that part of the country travel, 50 to 100-mile home ranges. You may see a track one day and then never see that cat again. So, trying to have a quota in the Northwest, may not have a localized impact as much as what you might hope if your neighboring units have, a general seasons type of thing. So I guess, I may be biased because our family has not been successful in ever drawing a mountain lion tag in the state of Montana. So, we've never had the opportunity to hunt here, but it just seems, Montana has complicated things beyond, what I can really understand. So it has been good. Thank you for filling in on some of that.
Yeah. Chase, I won't argue with you as far as whether or not we're able to make things complicated. We seem to be pretty good at that. But again, I'll keep coming back to, some of the comments that we hear is, opportunity comes with complexity. That we can certainly, hopefully will continue to learn and can hopefully simplify things into the future. And certainly not our goal to be as obtuse as it may seem at times. But having said that, that's part of what this is, the commission's proposal. And part of what the commission has heard is that, people do run around and try to close quotas. You meet a quota in one area, then they'll run over to the other area. And that's part of the reason why I think that they've considered this limited license that allows you to hunt in a particular area, but doesn't allow you to go elsewhere. And so I think the commission is sensitive to that. And this is one of the considerations they put forth to kind of address that. If you don't think it's a good idea, send us an email, let us know what we can do better and how to do it. The commission will get that. And, if it's something that resonates with them, it's certainly something they might consider in the future.
Okay, thanks. That's
Thank
it
you.
for me.
Thanks for being here. Rod.
I thought I was through asking questions, but it's just a point of clarification, please, are there any changes or were there any changes, either one of those, to the lion management units or hunting districts? I've got this year's regs right here in my hand, and just looking at those. So maybe that's a region specific question. But like in Region 2, are there any changes to the LMUs?
That's a good question, Rod. And I'll preface this before turning it over to the region that we've got the commission. We presented this to the commission. They did not adopt any changes. They didn't adopt any boundary changes at this point in time. That's something they're still going to be addressing in April. And I'll let Liz Bradley, who's our newly appointed wildlife manager for Region 2, to respond to the specific changes that are proposed for Region 2.
Yeah, hi, Rod. So we did change some hunting district boundaries for deer and elk in the last season setting. And so what we're looking to do with the lion management units is just not changing the boundaries, but cleaning up the naming of them. So for example, 202/203, well, 203 is now gone as a deer and elk unit. And so we'll change that name to 202, but it's effectively going to be the same area. And then 285 in the Blackfoot, which is now 283/285, same thing. We would drop the 283, but it's going to be the same LMU.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, that's it. You got shut down? Oh. I can't figure out.
There.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm figuring out how to shut this thing down. I'm going to press raise hand again. Sorry.
All right.
Lower hand.
There you go.
I'm a technological midget.
It's amazing. After 2 years of using Zoom, I'm still managed to flummox things on a pretty regular basis. Okay, we've got, are there plans to increase the quota in Region 1? I think what we want to talk about is harvest. And Neil, I don't know if you feel comfortable putting you on the spot on that.
Yeah, I can answer that. I mean, right now, Brian had mentioned this before, that we had a citizens working group discussing that very topic for the Northwest ecoregion, which includes all of Region 1 and parts of Region 2, the very northwest portion of that. And based on the outcomes of that meeting, the recommendations, I think you heard Brian say, that was to try to reduce lion numbers in that ecoregion by between 10 and 15%, which would result in increased harvest goals, if you will. And with that's still a proposal. It would be a proposal that would go in front of the commission. And then that would have to go out as tentatives, probably in April, or however the commission would like to see that. But so that's kind of where we sit right now, is kind of following the lead of that ecoregion team that suggested they'd like to see a little bit more harvest of lions in Region 1.
Thanks, Neil. Well, at the risk of jinxing this whole deal again, I'm not seeing any more questions. We certainly have the ability, if questions come to mind, feel free to log back in tomorrow night. We'll have another exciting show, or what passes for it. I'm going to say one more chance. Any final questions? If none, thanks everybody for spending Monday night with us. Again, those email addresses, or get on, please, jump on there and make sure you share your thoughts. We're looking for specific comment on a couple of areas. If you have other thoughts, please send those fwpwld@mt.gov. And we'll share exactly what you share with us, goes to the commission. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate your energy, and keep your cards and letters coming. Let us know when we do something right. With that, night all.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, Matt, I keep forgetting we have an enforcement guy on here. Thanks for the input.
Yeah, I just think that's specific to the license, not necessarily the hound handler, and that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. No, appreciate it. Thanks.
Kind of gets lost